Now we are recording, but it was only blah blah blah, so no problem. Okay. Thank you very much. So, what we're gonna do? Well, there's a little number there, but I don't think it was. Okay, so we're gonna do the four immeasurable thoughts. Very good, because now there is recording that I'm a good monk and I'm doing prayers. So I can remember myself that, when I normally, because I normally don't do prayers, I forget. So then I can remember myself. Oh, you see, you did some prayers. So with that, we're going to do these aspirational prayers. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. And may all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. Now we're going to go to 98. We're going to go to 98 to take refuge. And I say refuge is that transformation of, I don't go anymore outside for blame and responsibility, but I go inside and I have the help of the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, which, are kind of like refuges to help me go into this inner work so I can transform myself to benefit others. Okay? I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. When it says by the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, it means by the virtues, mind, and virtues habits that I'm creating by listening to this method that is making me not go outside but go inside, may I become a Buddha from within myself, right? And why do I want to become a Buddha? To benefit others. Yes.
What is Supreme Assembly?
Supreme Assembly is the other word that they call for Sangha. So Sangha is not ordained people only, okay? It's not only people that comes to the center, but here is a specific, it calls Supreme because, excuse me, those practitioners that have realized what we call direct perception of reality, then they have no confusion in their minds.
All the enlightened ones.
Yes, we can say, so we call them Arya beings or supreme beings. Arya is a Sanskrit word for supremes, and supreme because they have started, let's say like this, the path towards Buddhahood. Because when you have the direct perception of understanding, like a reality, then from there, as I said the other day, you really start the process. It's not just like one time, okay. No, it's like, oh, and now you can start the job. You understand? So then you go more and more and more and more and more. Then from that moment, we start what we call the bodhisattva path, the bodhisattva paths and grounds. It's a beautiful, beautiful way of explaining grounds, as you know, and paths. So you have a specific, literally, is insane, like kind of like detailed explanation of the mental, how it is your mind from the where you are now until you get enlightened. Every mental state.
So this is a text.
This is a text, yeah. There are many texts, but it's like, especially there's one called Maitreya um, ornament of clear realization. So it's a text that I started studying, but I don't have the merit, and I'm very stupid, so I couldn't continue. It's a part of a master's program that we have in the FPMT. So it is. So you go through, each of these phases, but you have in another text that's just, well, there's another teachings that is called just grounds and paths, that you can first understand a little bit. Don't go so much into all the details because let's say the details are very detailed.
Just, you said it's literally they explain the ground and the path. Is that to help with the visualization?
It's more for you
For
to,
ones who are
it's also for
practice?
you to start recognizing, like to know your evolution. Let's say like that, It's like, oh, where I am here, am I doing the right thing? Right? Am I on the right track? Let's say like that. Right? So it's kind of like you're driving on a road and then you have the signal say, oh yes, only 100 kilometers, or in miles, in 10 miles, like you have a pit stop for pee pee break, something like this. You go like, it's like that, kind of like, but it goes describing what happens to your mind. So that is very interesting. So now we're gonna go back. Yes, sir.
You mind explaining again the direct perception of reality?
Exactly. How much time do you have?
Whatever I get, I'm grateful for.
Okay, we're gonna go very simple because it's the basis of
That's
what we're
okay.
trying to do it here.
I
Okay?
just want to make sure, like you say, I don't want to be wrong thinking.
Yes. Direct perception, is a specific mind as well. Okay? So we have different minds that cognize cognize things, cognize whatever it is that is appearing in our mind. Remember that we talked about last Tuesday, that we said that the mind is clear
Right.
and knowing, right? So clear means that things appear, but the knowing, oh man, you can know it in many different ways and levels and experiences. So the knowing part has very specific divisions of minds, right? So we have direct perception, you have inference, you have just perception. Oh, thank you, sweetheart. Just perception, and then you have doubt. You have many things that will kind of like create that mind that directly perceive or knows, you know, the nature of how things exist. So the idea of direct perception means that you perceive things without, to be very clear, very easy, very easy. I'm going to create more problems without a mental image. You understand what I mean by that?
Like as they are.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yes, without kind of like, without something that, without a mental image. What it means, a mental image? It means that everything that we experience right now appears to us as a mental image. So we see things, the eyes take that information and projects or creates a mental image in the mind, in the, in the consciousness or in the mind, so we can cognize it. Yes. Okay. It's like, for example, I came up to me today. It's very funny asking that, but it's like a movie. You go to the movies, and the movies have those little kind of like taka, 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 and they all like those are mental images, right? All the mental like little frames or frames. You say frames. Yeah, frames. Little frames that are in a certain way, right? So, but those frames, if you think about it, they are not moving, right? They are not like moving the frames itself. The frame is the static image. Exactly like that in our minds. It's appearing in a static way. So, for example, let's say that you're not seeing someone, but you're thinking about someone, right? A good friend of yours. And then, like, for example, Jamie was not here, and I'm thinking about Jamie, but I didn't know Jamie had painted, no, dyed her hair. So the image in my mind that I had of Jamie was not based at all in reality because it was changing, right? Jamie is changing, but the picture in my mind not changing. So it's a little bit like that, the mental image. So direct perception means there's no mental image. I just see things as they are. So there's no that kind of like gap or that wrong idea between what is appearing to me, which appears permanent, which appears, as Jamie having non purple hair.
Like the essence of me,
It-
as opposed
there
to
is
an
there
image.
is there's like literally a kind of like, when you take a picture, you just have the pic, like, but that picture doesn't has nothing to do with reality, right? Because you change, you move, you evolve, you die, so many things, right? Happens. So that is what it is, right? So that mental image is completely a hallucination. Yeah. Yes. So direct perception of emptiness means that we see things, okay? The way we see things is that they are without that wrong, hallucinated way of appearing. So that's what we say is a direct perception of reality, direct perception of emptiness, because emptiness means emptiness of illusional, wrong, uh, confused way of existing, which is how we exist now, how we experience things now.
So we can't really see anybody or any object and say this is a direct perception.
Yeah.
Because nothing really exists
Nothing exists.
except that emptiness.
No, no, things exist, but they exist by causes and conditions. So a direct perception sees that things exist by cause and conditions. It's not fooled by the permanent, independent way that things are appearing to us. The way that they appear and the way they exist is the difference. Yeah, it doesn't mean that things are not. It's very good you're saying that, because normally that's how it goes. We go to the extreme. It's like then there's nothing. It's not that there's nothing. There is, but they don't exist the way they appear to us. The way they appear, independent, from their own side, kind of like self-existing without causes, right? Oh, I'm in a bad mood. Oh, this person, I'm angry. That came out of nowhere. So that is the wrong way that appearances the coming is telling us. The way things are is that they actually exist by cause and conditions, by being parts. Remember we discussed by being parts, and especially by being merely labeled by the mind, right? These three ways of existing we talked about. Yes, Roy, you had a question? No? Okay. That answers you?
Absolutely.
Okay, so the problem is that for us to arrive into that knowledge, for us to arise into that understanding, we need to make our minds very subtle, very relaxed. And right now, our minds are not subtle and relaxed because we are obsessed with me, myself, and I. So I cannot relax, because I woke up already saying, this, I need that, oh, and I need to do this, I need to do that, me. So the mind not relaxed. So it's not possible for us to achieve that direct perception if we are, with that kind of like grip into that me, myself, and I.
What would it look like if we woke up and we are not seeing the direct perception of reality quite yet, but we're also beyond just me. What's an example of how when we wake up and what would that be like?
So when we have a direct perception of emptiness, we haven't like still we are not free from the delusions, the negative emotions. We are just starting the process of purifying or clarifying them from our minds. Because now I have the sword. You see, that's why when Jushi has that sword. It's like that word means the direct perception. It's like I'm gonna go cutting. What I'm gonna do? I'm gonna train myself. So things will appear, but I'm gonna say, now I know. You understand? So you go and then you go. What we say in the grounds and paths is that once you have direct perception, then what you're going to start doing is accumulating merits, accumulating virtuous mind, and making the negative minds to decrease more and more and more.
It's the only way for my mind not to be like the running list when I wake up is to have that direct perception. Okay.
That is it.
Okay.
Because the only way for us to actually have achieved that is to get the antidote for what we have now, which is the wrong like appearance. So we need to have the right way so it doesn't exist. But when it's just like, when we cognize, when we understand, it's like, oh yeah, I understand that smoking is bad, right? Doesn't make me stop smoking, but it makes me start thinking towards like, oh, okay, so I will create the conditions to achieve and stay free from smoking. That is what the first idea of the perception, direct perception of emptiness is goes leading us until we go kind of like purifying. So negative emotions don't manifest anymore. So we are even more, so we go into meditation and we go even, more deep into that understanding. So then we come out of meditation. What we do? Accumulate merits, virtuous minds, clear, purify, go back to meditation.
And then I also have to work.
Well, the meditation that necessarily needs to kind of like be just, a sitting down meditation. Yes, at some point you're going to have. At some point you're going to kind of like, it's like you plan your ear and then you're accumulating merits and purifying and all of that, and then you do retreat. That's why retreat is so important, right? It's a component of transformation.
There's a cat somewhere.
There's a cat, yeah.
Did you
Oh,
lose
probably.
them when you prayed?
No, is that it's on the neighbor.
Other side.
Yeah, it's on the other side because there's a door over there, and the door is not so kind of like a
You're sure you didn't lose one from Saturday?
yes for the animal liberation. No, it's just there. So that is, you go.
Gain the wisdom of realizing emptiness experiential.
Mm-hmm.
And take that when the negative seed dissipate.
No, they only so that's when you start the grounds and paths, and then you go from one path to the other, from one ground to the other, purifying them. Because you have that wisdom. And then you go doing clarifying, purifying, and then you eliminate what we call into the 7 or 8 path, the obscurations, the manifest obscurations. So anger doesn't appear anymore, like nothing of these appear. However, you eliminate that. You're free from samsara. That's right. Okay?
Yep. Reaching the 8th bhumi is when you
7 to the 8th bhumi is that when you're free from samsara, you don't have no suffering anymore, no more anger, no more kind of like even, self-cherishing, nothing like that. But you still have self-clinging. Why you have self-clinging? Because the appearances are still contaminated. You don't run, you don't believe in them, but they still appearing. Remember we talked about that last week? Or
Mahamudra is when you,
You
get
know?
rid of that last wish.
and highest yoga tantra and dzogchen, they're just like, but everything is gonna bring you to at the end to stop. What you only become a Buddha when stop the appearances, the appearances to appear inherent, to appear wrongly. When you have no more appearance, then Buddhahood. Ta-da! That's it. Okay.
Is that next Saturday?
Exactly. That's what we're gonna do the retreat tonight on Saturday. Okay, so you guys all can come to the retreat on Saturday. We're gonna do that. Okay, let's
Oh, sorry.
show text. You guys are becoming cheeky. You guys are using my lack of focus to go all over the place. That's very good. So we are on the 5th verse. Remember that this text is to make us transform from our self-cherishing, exchange our selfish ways, self-cherishing, me, myself, to think about others. So when out of envy others mistreat me with abuse, insults, or the like, I accept defeat and offer the victory to others. Da, 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 da. I know what you're gonna say.
Do you really?
No, I'm kidding.
Wow, all of that, all the perceptions have just completely denied.
Tell me.
How is that different than stupid compassion?
Very different. Completely different. Yes. Why you are asking that? Because you think they offer the victory to others?
No, well, from everything that we talked about, like just today,
Mhm.
I was thinking about that. Like when others, like when you don't have a sense of ego or self, and you're like, that person, this is just how they're, you know, um, working through their upset, anger, grief, whatever, and they're attacking
Mhm.
because, and you can empathize and say, I feel bad for this person because they're hurting, but then it doesn't guide them any differently. It doesn't lessen the amount of anger and upset in the world, and they stay on that negative path without like a corrective nudge, let's say.
Mm. Yes.
And if you just continue to kind of let that behavior go, saying, I hope they find their way,
Mhm.
then in a way it kind of feels a little bit like stupid compassion, because you're not stopping that negative behavior, or you're not interrupting it.
There's a very big difference, and that is why it's important for us to understand the steps and the grounds of the path. Because if we try to jump into the helping, we might actually create more negativity for ourselves and for others. That's why it's so important for us to really first understand what suffering is, what are the causes of suffering, and what are the ways to cessate, to stop and eliminate them. If we don't understand that, we are not going to be able to help in the way that Buddhism is talking about helping others, right? Because the help in Buddhism is not only about the external help, about the, kind of like giving food and shelter and all of these things. So we need to first understand that, right? And that we need to first understand with ourselves. So if we don't understand with ourselves, then it's very complicated for us to help others, to give a nudge, you said, right? So that the nudge can only comes through an understanding of our own minds. Remember the mechanics of our own minds and changing our own mind. If we don't do that, we're not going to have the capacity and the skills to know what is most beneficial for others, right? And that's why the only moment that we're going to know exactly what is most beneficial for others is when we become a Buddha. Because the mind of the Buddha, when there is no perception, as we talked about now, without a perception with the wrong mental image, because the mental image is created by all of these kind of like past behaviors, the karma, right? That is what kind of like is creating that mental image. That's why each of us have a specific mental image appearing in our minds. That's why we talk about this being beautiful or ugly. It's because the mental image that is created in our minds is created by us, right? So the moment we have that, we don't have that. So we have an omniscient mind. We have a mind that understands why you are perceiving this in your mental image. I have access, let's say like that, to your mental image. Therefore, I have then the specific wisdom to give you the nudge that is going to be
Specifically need.
that you specific need to stop doing that, because that is the problem. Is not that if you are being like angry or something, or in that moment, because maybe I'm gonna say I'm gonna actually need her to become even more angry so she can see that. Do you understand? That is very sensitive because that is exactly why we need to become a Buddha in order to start guiding others. You know, of course, we can start giving advice and help in the limitations that we have, but knowing that there are limitations there, right? We're not going to be able. And secondly, knowing that we don't change others, right? Others change themselves. So, for us to have the wisdom to be able to help others, we need to achieve that ultimate wisdom. The ultimate wisdom is the mind of a Buddha. So that's why we want and need to become a Buddha first. So when we talk, when we do the prayers, remember the prayers in the beginning, it says, may I become a Buddha first to benefit others. There's also even the order, how perfect it is, right? Even the order we say the prayer, it says, may I become a Buddha to benefit sentient beings. So I need to become a Buddha myself. So then what it becomes more important than the let's say the order of the path is becoming a Buddha. So becoming a Buddha means eliminating your own sufferings and developing your own good qualities. So whatever the situation is, you need to check how you are achieving these two goals. Whatever nudge you want to give to others, you need to check these two things. Understand?
Mhm.
Then you're practicing Dharma. Because practicing Dharma means you are decreasing that mindset, that negativity mindsets, right? And the wrong views, these two things, and developing the good qualities. If you're not doing that, whatever nudge you're giving is just self-cherishing, like, confused and all of that. So we're going to continue doing these nudges wrongly, but that's how we learn as well.
Is that the question that you thought I was gonna ask?
Yes, actually, it was. I kind of like I knew you were going for that part because it is a very important part. It's a very important part. I'm going to talk about it. First, I want to talk about the disadvantages of envy, right? If we don't understand, let me put that back again. Sorry, I forgot that. The disadvantages of envy, right? When out of envy, others mistreat me. Why do I need to understand envy? Because I need to recognize. So how do I recognize envy? First,
Game recognizes game.
right? I need to first recognize my own envy. And I need to understand how envy works, the mechanics of envy. For the moment I see envy in others, I can jump and not go into the used to or the habitual patterns that we have when envy happens, when mistreat, abuse, insults happen to us, right? So one thing that is important is that because just think when we are being mistreated, when we are being abused, when we are being insulted, we don't like it. We don't like to feel like that. So what happens when we don't like something? Not liking something, it's equal to anger. Okay? Nuances of anger. Okay? So means there is either aversion, there is either wanting to harm, there is either, imploding. Oh, then I am the problem, anger towards myself, right? So that's how we deal with that situation of mistreat, abuse, insults, isn't it? It's just that. We just go through that process of either being angry at the person who is doing that to me, or it's our fault, right? So anger about me, anger towards me. So I need to understand that why envy happens. So when I see that this is happening to me, I can understand the mind that is working for that person. What is happening? I don't understand. I'm not going to understand, let's say, as in when I'm a Buddha, to understand, for example, what are the causes that made that person do that in a certain way, but I will understand the mechanics of the emotion because it's exactly the same that I experience. So when I'm feeling the effects of abusing souls, is exactly the way that I inflict abuse, mistreat, and insults on others. So I recognize that, right? You understand what I'm saying? Yes, dear.
Isn't that similar to the last week about wickedness and anger?
Yes.
Like, is it?
But here's envy,
Okay,
right?
Okay.
Which is different because envy has a sign of what? Envy has a really signs of if you think about it, a kind of like a it's necessarily involved with attachment. Think about envy. What is envy? How we describe envy?
I want it and you shouldn't have it because I want it.
Or I'm gonna be very happy when I have it, right?
You're deserving.
In a way, exactly. Remember we talked about pride, envy,
Don't.
huh?
Why don't?
Why don't I have that? You know, right? So I'm convinced, we convince ourselves, we convince ourselves that, oh, we cannot be happy while that other person has that and I don't have it. A bit ugly, huh? If you think about it,
The
actually.
evil eye.
It is, right? Envy is like a wow. And that something cannot be just an object. That something can be a person. That something can be status, reputation, admiration, affection from mom and dad, and whoever. Then it starts to become juicy, right? Because then we start to see that, wow, and even kind of like anything like praise or kind of like followers or whatever. Like think about it. We're just all the time this envy. I want to have that for me, right? That, but I also deserve that, right? I deserve actually more than that person. Because what? I think that things exist without a cause. That's one of the reasons, right? I just think that it's just like, right? That person just had that without any effort, without anything. That person just like woke up and it was like that. And that's sometimes how it feels like, especially with rich people or inheritors. Inherit is that what we call? Yeah, the people who inherit money. Like they don't do anything, and then they have like they can whatever do, right? That's why it comes. But of course, we are talking about this life. If we think about, if we understand cause and effect, we're gonna say that they created the causes for that, for experiencing that. That means that they're going to be happy. No. That means that they are happier than us. No. We know that having more money or having more cars or having more whatever doesn't bring happiness. Right? So then it's a mistaken view from our side. But also anger can be not only the attachment for these things, but can also create or be associated with anger, hostility, right? So it bothers us. We get, like literally, when someone has something and we don't have it. Or, we have a partner and our partner starts to give attention to others. Jealousy as well, no, comes from that, isn't it? It's like, I want that, like, like, no, like I get angry. I get kind of like hostile to someone because, it's like the attention, the possession, the quality that someone has want to have it off. I get kind of like frustrated that this person has it and I don't have it. Yeah, do you recognize that? So we can't stand it. We can kind of like, and that one just starts to even think about either making something to make that person lose it. Yes. Make us wanting maybe to destroy the happiness of that person. How many times? Someone was very happy for something. Oh, they got into the college or they got something, and then you just dismiss the person. Oh, that's not big to you. Something like that. How many times? How many times you kind of like the person was, and you were like kind of like, oh yeah, that's very nice, but I don't know, and you start to kind of like criticizing the way to in some ways make that person feel not so happy. You understand? You kind of say, yes, but you know, but also now problems will start in your life. You know what I mean? Envy is like very sneaky. No, very sneaky. Very kind of like, you know? So we need to start recognizing it, right? Because normally the way we are mistreated, abused, and all of that is because of that, right? Because people are envy. There's envy in there, right? There's that envy of like, you know, we can't stand that this person is achieving. We can't stand that this person is kind of like having something. I'm gonna mistreat them. I'm gonna kind of like put them down, right? So I don't need to deal with my own frustration and suffering. So we need to start recognizing that. We need to really start being, you know, focused and, you know, like really being able to recognize that. So when that start happening to us, when we start to be the object of that, we start to say, oh, okay, you know, mm, there is resentment in that. Resentment, is it? So resentment is another of the nuances of anger, another color of God. I don't know why it's like this. I don't know what happened, but I'll do that later. Annotate. I don't know. Okay. And then what happens to us is that we start to actually become aware that, wait a minute, maybe, maybe we are receiving all of this, but it might not be something to do with us, right? Maybe it might be something related to the mind of envy in that person. So then, if we start to recognize when we are envy, we are, so we are kind of like creating that mindset, right? Which is completely deluded, completely deluded. We are kind of like seeing, oh, I want this for myself. I'm going to be happy if I have it. I'm not going to be, if I don't see that I'm doing this, I'm not going to recognize that in others. Do you understand what I'm trying to say here? That is the most important fundamental aspect, is that if I don't see that the mindset of envy is negative when I am under the influence of it, forget about seeing that in others. Forget. So then you cannot go into that next phase of helping them because you don't see the first point, which is recognizing the suffering and the causes of suffering, right? So if you don't understand that, then you're going to get, as I say, glued to the story, right? Then it makes personal. Then forget about it. If you're personalized, you're it's going to be difficult for you to be able to first get out yourself and help, but help others. You know, first put your own mask. Forget about putting other people's mask, right? You know, and then also we need to understand that kind of like what happens in jealousy, in envy, is that comes also with that comparing, right? Which is what we are doing a lot. And you know, as I say, comparing brings a lot of nowadays low self-esteem. Because think about it, when we were young, when we were between 9 and 16, 17, when we were discovering ourselves, you know, we were comparing ourselves maybe with our neighbors and the people at school. Now, with these bloody things, we are comparing ourselves. Children at this age are comparing themselves with people from all over the world and only comparing themselves with the best version of people, right? So the reason, that's my understanding, right? I haven't seen so much of uh, um, studies about that, is because out of envy that depression is really strong. Is that comparison, the comparative mind, right? Because they are comparing themselves with something that is completely illusory. It's an illusion. It's not an illusion the way that we were talking about the mind. It's an illusion because that person who is appearing in that is not light. That doesn't live 24 hours of the day in that way. So the comparative mindset, it's normal that we compare. It's kind of like part of our lives in some ways. But the way we are comparing, is now it's kind of like we're unbeatable. We can never become like that. We can never. So then it just goes like this, boom, with ourselves. And then what creates it's low self-esteem, self-pity, right? Which in some ways they are extremely negative mindsets towards oneself, but they are extremely selfish mindsets because they're only thinking about me. So it's also in some ways making that idea of like, oh, poor me. And then I'm the center of the universe again. Right? Yes, Bob.
Can I present a different perspective?
Please.
That low self-esteem
Mm-hmm.
doesn't necessarily have anything to do with envy.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't necessarily have to do with comparison in that way that you're describing it,
Mm-hmm.
but it has to do with the feeling of not fitting in, not belonging. There's a fear
Mhm.
associated with it.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea of being the center of attention really doesn't appear. It'd almost be nice if that did. You don't even have enough esteem to
It's
think about being your own self-focus in terms of your self-esteem.
it's different what I'm talking about, esteem and selfishness. It's very different. It's not the same. Like low self-esteem or a healthy self-esteem, right? Like a healthy self-esteem is very different than like selfishness. Selfishness is even that idea of like I want to belong, I want to do that. It is about me, just me, myself, and I. If I have that, like as long as I have that, right? That is exactly what happens. People start to acting completely horrible. There's a very stupid movie that when I was growing up is like Mean Girls or something like that, right? That talks about that. There's like this girl to be accepted, to feel good with herself. She puts everything she can, like lies to everybody. It doesn't matter the friends. It doesn't matter who we are. It's selfish, right? Because she was afraid of not fitting into the new school and all of that. So that comes from this selfish mindset. She doesn't have a low self-esteem in some ways because she's actually being popular, being seen, and all of that. So it's different. A good sense of a healthy sense of esteem, we say in Buddhism, it's understanding your own sufferings and the mechanics of your own sufferings so you understand what are the causes of it and how you can actually eliminate that. So seeing that, oh, wait a minute, my suffering is coming from negative tendencies. Negative tendencies is not me, it's just habits. Negative emotions comes because I'm projecting things on them that they are not true, right? So I don't blame myself. I don't become guilt or shame because I'm acting under them. I see that, I can see how they are bad and how they're creating like a bad experience for me and others. So I can change. That idea is a good self-esteem. Makes sense? Makes this is kind of like so then the low self-esteem in relation to envy, it comes because envy is that mindset that kind of like believes that I am unhappy because I don't have that. So, that's what I'm saying. Either you're gonna go and want to destroy the happiness of that person, or you're gonna destroy all your happiness by saying, oh, is because I am bad, because I don't have anything. So it's not just envy in itself, but envy coming with, that mind of comparing, or kind of like pushing you down, or seeing yourself as negative, shame, blame, and all of these things, right? So that will feed into those negatives, that will see myself as in this way, that I cannot change. I'm permanent like this. So that is the problem with envy in that sense, because it creates that mindset in us, right?
That mindset.
Yeah, both. They're retro feeding each other, like, they're feeding each other. That's why it's a cycle, right? That is what samsara is about. It's just like the more envy I feel, the more the habit I become, the more I kind of like have the habit to feeling anger, envy, and then just go like this, just go like that, right? Without stopping. So that is why it's important for us to first recognize the negative parts of it, really recognize. So when we are being mistreated, when we are being abused and all of that, then we can start recognize. And that, like when we're talking about out of envy, because we know that then it's someone that we know, someone that has something, it's not just kind of like someone, it can be someone out of the blue, but you can recognize when envy goes. It's not just a wicked person like last time. A wicked person and an envy person, very different. You know, a wicked person is more kind of like someone that is almost like physically you can see. Like envy is more, you know, kind of like it's your friend, but actually, you know, behind. You know what I mean? Sneaky, sneaky, yes. There's a very good word in, I think in Spanish is sibilino, sibilino, something like this. It's a very funny word that I learned in Spanish, and I was laughing for hours about that. How it was sneaky. It's very sneaky. So then we go again to that part that says, okay, so what do I do? Okay, I see it. I kind of like recognize it. I don't get into the story. One of the good things is to first, right, accept defeat. Accept defeat means I don't take things personally, right? And I accept the idea that these are happening, okay? Because in some ways there was a creation from my side of that, right? That is difficult, but that's how we start to understand that there is a cause that was created.
It's even more difficult if it's from a previous life, though.
Yes, yes, exactly, exactly. But it does help thinking, because it helps us to say, okay, so now means that is happening. Now I'm actually, that if I don't go into the mind of behaving negativity against this, I'm stopping this here from happening again. Do you understand that means? So that means that if I'm not allowing myself to react to that, I'm stopping feeling, and the last time I'm being abused, insulted, or mistreated in this way.
Breaking the pattern.
Breaking the pattern, right? If I change that. So the accept defeat, it has to do with this. It has to do with kind of like, okay, I accept defeating regarding, our own loss. Because normally when it happens, what we want is that we want to get revenge, right? We want to destroy the happiness of this person. We want to get this. That is the loss that we need to give up. We need to give up on that.
Maybe it's a different one, but I feel like I've also heard it of like having the last word.
Yes, having the last word. In the 37 practices, or the 7 point of mind training, there is one that also says about that, and it's exactly like this. We kind of like have that kind of like feeling of like, "Oh, I need to be happy. I need to be like, to have the last word. You just offer that. I don't need to. Why? Because you're trying to train your mind in decreasing your self-cherishing and your negative emotion, and you're trying to change your mind into develop your good qualities. So what you're gonna do as well? You're gonna rejoice in that other person. You're gonna rejoice that there's other person. That's what it means to offer the victory. You're gonna be very happy that this person has what they have. Why? Because they created the cause for having it. Right?
Mhm.
They created the cause. Not that they are just out of cause. So they created, so you be happy for this. Right? Of this object of attachment that you so want for yourself. You become happy of that, right? But,
How,
Mhm.
can you give like an example? Like, so the other person, let's say it's like a relationship, like you're like the mother and then the two kids.
Mhm.
And so one kid is more the favorite kid,
Yes.
and the other kid is like upset. Then how, like, what does it look like to then rejoice the other person if you, what does that second part look like?
So what we're gonna do is that, for example, in that case of the kid,
Or adult, it could be adult, but
yeah, I
like,
would say it would be easier because well, the kid can also have that understanding, but you need to be wanting to practice Dharma.
Yeah.
To do that, right? Because otherwise you're not gonna do that. But it's just observing that if you feed the mind of envy and attachment or anger, all of these, who is losing? You. Remember, we just said the more we do it, the more we continue to do it, the more we experience the same result that I'm experiencing now, right? So I don't like that feeling insulted or this or that situation. I just don't like that. So I don't want to have that anymore. So I'm gonna first stop that mindset of coming back, right? So that's what I offer the victory. I kind of like I don't go into that revenge mode. I don't feed the negative automatic ways of responding to that.
Mm.
But some like I that is not enough, that is already incredible. But we want to what? Transform the mind, right? So we need to develop something good out of it. So what do? I invert, I use an antidote, right? So I'm going to rejoice if it is something that I want to have it, right? For example, I'm envy of this person that I want to do that. So I want to have these things. Or for example, if someone is mistreating me or abusing me, right? You kind of like going to say, wow, this person is kind of like using something that is kind of like is creating that negative aspect for like what we were discussing, that this person is creating a negative aspect of that. I need to do something to stop that, right? So because I understand that this person is creating the habitual pattern to do that again and experiencing that themselves, even though they are now the abusers, they're gonna be the abused. They are the one insulting, they're gonna receive the insult. So I want to stop that. So I'm gonna create whatever way in order to trans to do something about it, right? That is what remember, this is we are trying to transform our minds into wanting to help others, and that is exactly the path of the bodhisattva, right? So there is in the bodhisattva vows, there's one of the vows that we take that is exact that it says someone is doing something harmful, not refraining from use methods to do that. It's a lack, it's a fault, right? From our, however, we need wisdom, so we need to know, to check our own mind first. That is the important thing. Because if I'm going to do that with the intention to be proud and to wanting to receive something in return, forget about it, not helping anyone because you're creating the negative karma for you. And you need to become a Buddha in order to help others. So, how can you become a Buddha if you're creating more pride and negative karma? It's counterproductive to the point of wanting to become a Buddha. Makes sense what I'm saying? So that is going to be the first thing, you're going to check your own mind. And for example, you have you are very selfish and very attached to yourself, like, and then like you kind of like don't want to, you have like a very expensive purse and you don't want to kind of like I don't know, do something, and you see someone and that might involve putting that person like in danger, So you might have to do that, right? That is something for you that might help you. You understand? Like if you have that tendency to not use your like to be attached to your purse.
Yeah.
So in that situation, putting the purse into danger is something that is going to help you because it's going to decrease your attachment to it. So it's going to be a counter attachment to that feeling. Or
Or if somebody steals the purse,
somebody,
saying to yourself, that person must need it more than
I
do.
offer that to you. That's what
Yeah.
we say, I offer that to this person.
Okay.
So you do that. But maybe it's the opposite. Maybe it's kind of like for you, you are always saying, oh no, I don't want to create problems. No, it's no problem. It's okay. No, I don't want to create problems. What do you need to do? Go to the police. That's what's going to be your antidote for that. Do you understand? Because you need to know your mind. The antidote is in your mind. So the external aspect is going to be completely different. The external like kind of like action is going to be what is going to be needed for your mind to be transformed. Do you understand what I mean by that? So that is why it is so important, but it's also so dangerous that when we talk about helping others, then when we talk about, kind of like offering the victory, that we are clear that this is that way of doing it is changing our mind, is developing our mind in compassion and love and developing good qualities and decreasing our own self-cherishing and our own negativities. If it's not for that, it's an ego trap. But then you need to know. So that's why the Buddha taught 84,000 teachings. And then sometimes you read things and you say, this dude is completely insane. He's bipolar, you know? Dude, Buddha was bipolar. I'm sure Buddha was bipolar because it was no diagnosis. Because he says this, and then to the other person he says that, exactly the opposite, right?
Because it's what that person needed to hear.
That is the mind of the Buddha. So that is why when we talk about, we normally say we shouldn't talk about the advices that your teacher gives to you. Why? Because for you. Because then someone else is here and say, oh yeah, so then I should be doing the same thing. Completely the opposite, right? So many things. I have so many examples of that, and that like it was so hard because she made my life so complicated sometimes because of the specific advice he would give to me, right? Because people could not understand, but like no, and I would say, but Rinpoche tell me exactly the same, so I can't, right? Because that each of us needs something different, but only the mind of a Buddha can actually know. So we need to transform ourselves into a Buddha by exchanging ourselves, by doing that, by transferring, by offering the victory, by kind of like offering defeat, right? That is what we need. Offer whatever. The victory means what? Your selfish victory.
Yeah, if you don't have an ego, then
If
it doesn't mean
but
anything.
but you need to first find what is your ego, because we do have, and we do have a very strong ego that is trying to get something out of it. So what is that? What is your victory? Then you offer it. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
So you get your victory in every moment, and then you offer, because every moment is going to be different. It's not going to be always the same victory, because we are all changing and then you find your own victory first. So that's why I was saying, and I feel that sometimes it's lacking this, to be honest, and I'm not saying this in a proud way at all. The only person that I received teachings that on a commentary on this text and said this was His Holiness. The rest don't talk about that. About the difficult being in actually recognizing our own victory. What is the own victory? The ego's victory. When we're going to meditate in the emptiness, the first thing we say is that we need to recognize the object of negation. So what we're going to negate, that is, what we're going to say is empty of, right? So we need to see the inherent as existing, that self-existing. It's exactly the same thing here. I need to first see. I'm so sorry, it's confusing today, but I need to find a victory. The victory of what? Of my normal ego. How I'm gonna normally react to that. I'm gonna be bitchy. I'm gonna kind of like say this. I'm gonna do that. That I recognize all of this. And I know that all of this, if I allow myself to do it, I'm gonna be creating more negativity for me and more suffering for myself. And harming others. So what do? I offer that victory. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that at all. I accept defeat of these and I offer. And how do I do it? By antidote, by doing the opposite of it. And the opposite of it can be not saying compliments or becoming like a stone or walking away or whatever you need. Might be even going to kind of like to the police to say that this person has mistreated me, abused me. It can be that as well. It doesn't not mean that something that I'm going to do might not create a relative in this life type of suffering for that person. That is complicated and difficult, but we have to have that certainty. If I have that certainty that what I'm doing in my mind is to decrease my self-cherishing, to decrease my habitual tendencies, negative habitual tendencies, and to increase my positive ones, even if I have to kill someone. Difficult. Don't do that, please. But that is the story. Exactly, exactly. And I'm in America. I need to be very careful. Everything can become a lawsuit. So you understand? But that is how profound it can go. But the more we advance on the path, the more we have that kind of like, understanding of it. The more we can kind of like take the definition. Now just check how you work. We all know ourselves a little bit. That we become a little bit like snappy or this or that. Then just do something, the opposite, simple. Start simple.
So don't kill somebody?
No. And also no ends. You understand? That is how we kind of like start changing. That is what we kind of like we are doing, exchanging those mindsets, exchanging the habitual negative mindsets and selfish mindsets for something that is positive, right? Something that makes sense, something that will kind of like transform my mind in getting me closer to enlightenment. That's what I want, right? Remember the first verse, like the term to obtain the greatest possible benefit from all sentient beings, the greatest possible benefit that we want, and the wish fulfilling Jew, what we are asking the wish fulfilling Jew is to get enlightened. That's what we want. We want enlightenment. We want to be free from our suffering. We want to achieve, find happiness ever after. So when we are offering the victory, we are doing everything that our minds are telling us that victory will be, and we are going towards that victory, enlightenment victory. Then becomes practice of Dharma. Then Dharma is really practice. Otherwise, just ego trip, just like, then no need. Honestly, I always say I make fun, but it's better for yeah. Well, it's good that you're doing it, trying at least. But if you're really not like serious and disciplined in your practice, then what is going to happen is that you're going to say, "Oh, it doesn't work, this Buddhism." And I've seen so many people after 20 years practicing, 30 years, but because they didn't get the point. And the point is not for you to be more comfortable, more, like in these like outside things. It's for you to go against these negative mindsets that you create, these negative habitual patterns. And let's face it, doing that is hard. That's why you have the problems with relationships or with others, because what others want is not what you want. And then right? Isn't it? Right? There's conflict. It's because someone is saying, I don't want that, but I want that, right? And when you understand that, it's like, oh, maybe helping that person to get what they want might be actually better for me than actually having what I want. Yeah, you understand what I mean by that? Yeah. Then you start to practice Dhamma. Yeah. Then you start practicing Dharma. Then Dharma is really, then everything, There's this beautiful text that say, then may my mind become the Dharma, may the Dharma become the path. And then everything we do becomes Dharma. Any questions after all the blah blah blah? Is there any comments? Any idea, Melissa, Christopher, Randy, and Esther, Sandra? You guys got everything? Very good. And here, no questions now. Wow.
We asked a lot.
Yeah, exactly. You guys are tired, like, So that's the idea, okay? That is what means. Is this is a very we use a lot this text, okay? And I remember, I remember so much a situation that I had. It's funny we were talking about, the different situations that we kind of like had, with some centers and all of that, and I remember that my mind was still like, but they are wrong, but I need, but they are wrong, but they are wrong, they are wrong, they are wrong. And then I said, it's my mind. It's creating the problem. Let them have what they want. Then you're gonna have what you want, which is peace of mind. Right? It is relaxed, it's kind of like, then I said, I think you're completely right. And I remember the shift of the energy. It's almost like you could touch. It was just did like this. And the person said, oh, okay, right? And all of that, stop it. And everything became calm, relaxed. And the person started to say, okay, just like that. Doesn't matter. Didn't matter. What was the problem? It didn't matter what was the result. Didn't matter anymore in my mind. So then shift. So special. That is what freedom is about. That's what happy and absence of suffering comes. Right? The absence of suffering is that. Is when you are in that, then you stop it. You stop your own suffering. You understand? You recognize that? You all did that. It's not like, oh, you need Buddhism. No, it's when you have an argument with your partner, with someone, and then you say, okay, yes, I let you have the final word. And yes, you were right, and I was wrong, when you do like that, okay. And then you relax, then you can kind of like, yes, be happy. That's it. You understand? That in a very profound and all the time way. Imagine how wonderful would be living like this. That's why we say that the more we do that, the more blissful we become.
Ignorance is bliss.
Well, not sure about that. Wisdom, in this case, wisdom is bliss. That's what we say in Buddhism. The union of bliss. So thank you very, very much. Let's just do a very quick dedication because I already stopped past the time. So we're gonna do a dedication saying that everything that we have done, everything that we kind of like have heard, that we like talked about, and all of these here, may we use to really transform our minds and to help benefit others. Let's not just kind of like stay here with ourselves, but really to transform ourselves, and so we can be more and more offering the victory. And that will create a world of more happiness, of kindness and love and peaceful world. That's what we want as well. Okay. Page 36 or here. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May this due bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish but increase more and more. So now you understand much more this thing. No, look at this. May I quickly attain the state of a Buddha and lead all living beings without exception to that enlightened state. That's what I want, right? And then, of course, we would not be here without the completely existence of our teachers, and especially His Holiness the Dalai Lama. He always says, even he said, I lost my country like almost like more than 60 years ago, but at least the world got the Dharma. Yeah, that's very special. So may he have a long and healthy life and continue guiding us and all sentient beings, not in this life, but all future lives unto enlightenment. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Chenrezig Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. And for making sure that we can continue having Rinpoche, because Rinpoche is even directly more connected with us, because we are in the center that Rinpoche, like open, and because of him, and so many people, of course, but because of his kindness, Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa, we are here. So we dedicate for his swift return. Healers, teacher, and assembly of the children of the victorious ones, Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, victorious Lojong, father and sons, along with the lineage masters, all objects of refuge of infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now. Holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice, you are the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable, venerable Guru, to you I make this request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and from other living beings you suddenly departed to please. What a great loss! Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the three jewels and the great waves of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly be in glory for fortunate disciples. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. Christopher, thank you for being in your car and watching us. Thank you.
Today, I thought you might want to read
Thank you
it.
so much. What is
From
this?
the Dalai Lama.
A treatment the Dalai Lama. So it's what is a quote from the Dalai Lama. If you shift your focus from yourself to others, extend your concern to others, and cultivate the thought of caring for the well-being of others, then this will have the immediate effect of opening up your life and helping you to reach out. In other words, the practice of cultivating altruism has a beneficial effect not only from the religious point of view, but also from the mundane point of view, not only for long-term spiritual development, but even in terms of immediate rewards. From my own personal experience, I can tell you that when I practice altruism and care for others, it immediately makes me calmer and more secure. So altruism brings immediate benefits. Very in tune with our class today.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Saturday for our retreat for those that can come.
Thank you.
Yes.
Are we going to go to the Everglades?
Yes, we do have a break. We have many breaks. We have many
Are we
breaks.